When people talk about the muscle car era, typically they're referring to a window of time between 1964, when the Pontiac GTO introduced the basic formula for muscle cars, and 1974, which is when four 54-powered Corvettes, Pontiac Super Duty 455s, and aftermarket tuners such as Baldwin Motion disappeared. For a few years in the late 70s, it seemed as though American cars would never be exciting again. The truth is, muscle cars never fully disappeared, and starting in the early 90s, they arguably became better in every measurable performance metric than ever before. Chevrolet's LT1, Ford's Modular motor, and Chrysler's Viper V10 paved the way for modern muscle, kicking off a horsepower war that wages today. What's most astounding is not just that the Big Three brought muscle back to the masses with more power than ever, but that these modern engines were reliable and even daily drivable thanks to electronic fuel injection, refinements to combustion chamber designs, variable valve timing, and good old forced induction. So what muscle car engines can you depend on for daily use? Which ones will give you Camry-like reliability and the power that you crave? General Motors LS1/LS6 V8. Why choose an LS-swapped engine for your project car? Well, it's pretty straightforward. LS engines are common, easy to find, simple to repair, make a lot of power, and will survive a nuclear apocalypse alongside cockroaches and diesel-powered Mercedes from the late 70s. When the LS1 hit the scene in 1997 in the C5 Corvette, it was a clean sheet take on the classic Chevrolet small block V8. The block was aluminum yet stronger than the old iron block, the heads breathed better, and it was more efficient. With 345 horsepower, the standard C5 Corvette could rival the previous 405 horsepower C4ZR1 in a straight line.
Yep.
The LS1 only got better when GM gave it significant power upgrades for the C5 Corvette Z06. The engine was so radically transformed, they decided to give it a new name, LS6. In 2001, the LS6 packed 385 horsepower, which was upgraded to 405 in 2002. For use in the 2004 to 2005 Cadillac CTS-V, the LS6 made 400 horsepower due to a more restrictive exhaust. The best part was that this power came with incredible reliability and durability, with 200,000-plus miles being possible with proper care and maintenance. Chrysler 6.1 Hemi V8. In 2003, Daimler Chrysler reintroduced Mopar fans' favorite word, Hemi. The Gen 3 5.7 Hemi may not have true hemispherical combustion chambers, but a decent application of an accelerator pedal rendered the argument pointless. It was a powerful new engine that went into everything from Dodge Chargers to Chrysler 300s to Jeep Grand Cherokees. The standard 5.7 version of the engine had some radical tech to give it decent efficiency, such as cylinder deactivation under light loads. Now, you want to know the truth about Chrysler's Hemi V8 engine reliability? The simpler, less electronics-festooned versions are the longest-lasting, and the 6.1 version of the Gen 3 Hemi was as simple and basic as it gets. Yes, the 6.1 guzzles more gas than the 5.7, but it made 420-plus horsepower and could rival a Toyota Corolla for dependability. Ford Coyote, Modular V8. Ford's modular motor brought overhead cams to the muscle car world when it finally came to the Mustang in 1996. While the Camaro and Firebird still relied on overhead valves, the Mustang was entering its rev-happy future. At first, the Mustang GT's 4.6 V8 made 215 horsepower, or barely more than a Crown Victoria, but buyers could opt for the SVT Cobra and get 4-valve double overhead cam heads for an even 300. There was a 5.4-liter version of the modular motor, too, which powered everything from Ford Expeditions to the supercharged F-150 SVT Lightning pickup. In 2003, the Mustang SVT Cobra got 390 horsepower thanks to supercharging. In 2011, the Ford Coyote V8 resurrected the legendary 5.0 name and changed the game forever, giving 412 naturally aspirated horsepower to the regular old Mustang GT. Meanwhile, the Shelby GT 500 name was revived for the Mustang Cobras, and they rose from 500 horsepower in 2007 to an astounding 760 horsepower in 2020. The best part? These engines are powerful, yet truly dependable, especially earlier 4.6 two-valve motors, lasting hundreds of thousands of miles with proper care. Ford HO 302 Windsor. In the late 1960s, muscle car fans could argue, Ford versus Chevy, who made the best 302? The Camaro Z28 and Mustang Boss 302 were small displacement monsters and rightfully legends. Fast forward to 1981, and heading to a Ford showroom would have been depressing. The Mustang was saddled with a 255 cubic inch version of its venerable V8 and made about 122 horsepower thanks to emissions regulations. When buyers came back in 1982, things were looking up with the reintroduced 302 5.0 HO, or also known as high output. It made 157 horsepower in the Mustang GT, which sounds dismal compared to today's Mustangs, but it still granted low 7-second, high 6-second 0 to 60s thanks to its decent 240 pound-feet of torque. Plus, power kept rising, with 1983 models rising to 175 horsepower, and then a malaise era busting 210 horsepower in 1985. In 1986, the actual 4.9-liter 5.0 V8 got fuel injection, blessing the Mustang with improved economy without sacrificing power.
This is the new Ford Mustang GT. With its unmistakably new body surrounding an equally dramatic 5-liter port fuel-injected engine, it's easy to pick out the Mustang GT from a crowd.
In 1987, horsepower increased to 225, and torque was up to an even 300 pound-feet. The final version of the engine appeared in the 1994 Mustang SVT Cobra, where it topped out at 240 horsepower. The best part is that the bottom ends are robust and can not only handle more power than stock, but can handle racked-up mileage, too. Chevrolet L98. The 1984 Corvette may have had world-class cornering power with their 0.9G skid pad results, but with only 205 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque from their L83 V8s, they were a yawn fest at the drag strip, particularly against rivals from Porsche and Ferrari. But GM was determined to remind people why so many iconic muscle cars were powered by the Chevrolet small-block V8 engine. So they got rid of the L83's problematic sorta carbureted and sorta fuel-injected intake and went with proper tuned port injection. The resulting L98 produced a healthier 230 horsepower and 330 pound-feet, making the Corvette capable of low 14-second and even high 13-second quarter miles. That tuned port injection gave Corvettes improved fuel economy and reliability, in addition to power. Despite having only 2-bolt mains instead of 4 bolts, L98s proved to be quite reliable and durable, with well-maintained examples going well beyond 150,000 miles and even 300,000 miles before needing a rebuild. Chevrolet Mercury Marine LT5. It's hard to overstate how important the C4 Corvette ZR1 was when it debuted in 1990. With 375 horsepower, it could take on any sports car in the world, save ultra-exotics such as the Ferrari F40 or Porsche 959. It cost double the price of a standard Corvette. It could run high 12-second quarter miles at a time when practically nothing else would. And yes, the Chevrolet Corvette C4 ZR1 is more sports car than muscle car, but the Corvette has always straddled that line, appealing to both demographics. At the heart of the ZR1 was the most advanced engine ever stuffed into a Corvette, the LT5. Co-designed with Lotus, yes, the British sports car maker, and built by Mercury Marine, and yes, the boat engine people, It was a complex double-overhead cam V8 with primary and secondary intake ports. But Mercury Marine built the engines to incredibly tight tolerances, and in addition to setting endurance records, the engines proved to be super durable. Chrysler Hellcat V8. The power, exhaust note, longevity, and Hemi badges on fenders are why the Hemi going away is a kick in the gut to the automotive industry, and we will all miss it terribly. Still, the Hellcat 6.2-liter supercharged Gen 3 Hemi had 9 incredible years of thrilling drivers and passengers alike. And you can thank the 2013 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 for its existence. You see, when Chrysler was developing the Hellcat, they had Ford's high-horse Mustang in their sights, initially aiming for around 600 horsepower. When Ford introduced its 662-horsepower 2013 GT500, Chrysler took it as a personal challenge, which is why we now have 700-plus horsepower Hellcats, and Chrysler was not shy about Hellcating everything they could. Challengers and Chargers were first, but what about the Jeep Grand Cherokee? And the Ram 1500 series pickups? Absolutely. And what's most impressive is how robust Hellcats are, with one example still turning tires to smoke at 175,000 miles. Though it's not too surprising since Chrysler had to beef up everything to handle all that power and torque. Mercedes-Benz AMG M113K. If there's one non-American company that can claim to have created muscle cars, it's Mercedes-Benz. Ever since the 300 SEL 6.3, they've excelled at big-engined, automatic transmission, stomp-the-gas-and-go type vehicles. And horsepower wars being an arms race of continued one-upmanship, Mercedes swallowed tuner AMG in the mid-90s, specifically to keep their cars literally ahead of BMWs and Audis. But it was the E39 BMW M5 and Audi RS6 that gave Mercedes-AMG the push it needed to slap a supercharger on their already powerful 5.4-liter single-overhead cam M113 V8. The resulting M113K transformed 2003 AMG models from reasonably quick to unreasonably quick. A 2002 E55 could hit 60 in 5.1 seconds, but a 2003 E55 only needed 4.5. The quarter mile went from 13.4 seconds to 12.7 in one model year. What's truly incredible is that the M113K is easily one of the best Mercedes-AMG engines of all time in terms of durability and reliability, lasting many hundreds of thousands of miles before major service. Chevrolet LT Series, current generation. The LT is heavily based on the LS, but features important advancements such as direct injection and improved variable valve timing to improve efficiency and power. While engine swappers may bristle at the idea of adding more tech to an engine for fear of it making the engines less durable and harder to retrofit in older cars, the LT series has proved to be just as reliable as the older LS engines. Some of this has to do with the underlying robustness carried over from LS engines, and some of it is due to improvements such as larger head bolts. Unlike the old LT V8s from the 90s, the current unrelated LTs don't have the OptisPark ignition issues and have even addressed some shortcomings of the beloved LS. The truth about General Motors' LT V8 engine reliability is that everything from a fairly pedestrian Chevrolet Camaro LT1 to the track-focused Corvette ZR1 is going to start whenever you turn the key, and owners can expect more than 200,000 miles from them. Chrysler 440RB. What muscle car aficionado can honestly say they've never been infatuated with big blocks? The siren call of cubic inches is hard to ignore since displacement is an easy way to get huge power. Among the legendary engines such as Ford's 427FE, Chevrolet's LS6 454, and Chrysler's 426 Hemi, there's a standout for muscle car fans who value durability and longevity, the Chrysler 440. In the late 60s, a 446-pack would get a buyer 390 horsepower and smooth daily drivability, two qualities usually lacking in high-horse muscle cars of the era. These days, finding a Gen 1 or 2 Hemi can siphon money from your bank account, but getting a 440 for your Restomod or Hot Rod is relatively cheap. 440s came in just about everything, from Challengers to Ram Chargers to motorhomes, and made for some interesting swaps, such as a 440 Mopar big block inside of a 1979 Toyota pickup that sounds thunderous. Stock internals can handle plenty of horsepower, even with low-tier cast cranks. Keep the power reasonable, and the 440 will easily provide over 100,000 miles of service. Ford 3.5-liter EcoBoost. Don't discount Ford's EcoBoost as a fantastic platform for eyeball-flattening performance. Remember, those 6 cylinders are fed by a pair of turbochargers. Take the Ford F-150 Raptor, for example. 6.2-liter V8 Raptors made 411 horsepower and 434 pound-feet of torque, while the 3.5 EcoBoost Raptors made 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet. It wasn't until Chrysler's Hellcat-powered Ram TRX debuted that Ford even considered putting a V8 back in the Raptor. Also, it powers the Ford GT supercar that frequently brings around $1 million on Bring a Trailer. That's how great the EcoBoost is. Now, to be clear, you can't get away with standard extended service intervals on the Ford EcoBoost 3.5 engine. Rather than changing the oil at 7,500 miles, owners should do so at 5,000 miles. Do that, and you can continue to enjoy shocking levels of torque for many years to come. Well, there you have it. Most durable engines ever put in a muscle car. Have we missed any more? What engines did you think should be in this list instead? Comment down below and let's discuss. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button to keep you updated on our future uploads. Until then, I'll catch you on the next one.